on Chameleon just yet, you might want to click on this link and create an account, unless you just want to sit and watch the show. So okay. Now, let's talk about, a quick view about Chameleon. Chameleon, the best way to describe it, if you ever use AWS or other cloud solutions, in principle, it's similar to that, but you actually are getting bare metal hardware. So that means that you're going to have a physical machine that you have control of, and you can use it to, you can use them to build a test bed that you can do a networking and research of GPUs, CPUs, network, and storage. As you can see, we actually provide switchable VLANs to exogeny and OpenFlow network. So Chameleon in a nutshell, okay. Yeah, the idea, yes, we are going to, it's a physical lab that you can access virtually. And as such, you can configure it any way you want within some limits. You can have access to a lot of machines. You can reboot, install different OSs, play some consoles. You can also do a KVM stuff. Not many people are using the virtualized option, but it's there. So as you can see, you have a lot of resources available, 15,000 cores and lots of storage divided 2 sites. We're going to talk about them in a few. And the idea is you can build an experiment there, deploy it, run it, get the result, save it in a way that if you need, you can reproduce it again over and over. So if you want some historic information, starting 2014, went live in 15, was upgraded in 17, has a lot of people, and so on. Okay, hardware, drawings, and it started with Raswell-based CPUs and 2 different computing locations. One was at the Texas Advanced Computing Center, TACC, and the other was at University of Chicago. And there is also, University of Chicago has a smaller site that has 2 also Raswell sites, but while Austin has, they are organized into a different cluster layout. So this was the original setup. As you see, even originally we had some GPUs, FPGAs, and other processors. Later on, after 2017, we had the Skylake networks and Corsa switches, which allows you to do more network research, as we mentioned before. Okay, we're going to get started, talk about how to use the experiments. And the idea is, okay, we're going to do something like this, the experiment. We're going to design an experiment, get some resources for it, make them available, use the resources, install our little experiment, monitor the results, and go from there. In a real experiment, one of the most important steps after you run your experiment is you have to tear it down, because remember, this is shared resources. Other people might want to use it. So if we go here, still spawning. So to log in to Chameleon, use the website, chameleoncloud.org. And here we have, you can get some documentation, which I'm going to open here. Have some information. We're going to, hardware discovery appliances, the 2 different sites we talked, TACC, the Texas one, University of Chicago, and the KVM we mentioned. To log in, you're going to just click here. If you have an account, okay, I'm already logged in. So we're going to use the slides and okay, first we have to do some resource discovering. If you remembered, I was mentioning here on the menu, experiment called hardware discovery. If you click on that, it's going to show the 3 different sites, and you're going to wait a bit. And then here's going to give a list of all the nodes they have currently running. This is real live. That's why here it's showing 530 instead of 600, but this is live. So you see have a bunch of Skylakes, the newer CPUs, Haswell, the older CPUs, InfiniBand support, so you can play network, 24 GPUs, and let's say I click on the 24 GPU nodes. Let's see what we have available here. This is the list of all the machines that have those GPUs installed. You can see this is the name, how we call them. And you're going to see it's in the Chameleon cluster, it's a x86-64, has a GPU K80. And you can look for more information like how many CPUs it has, which processor it uses. It's an NVIDIA K80 GPU, and so on. So for this experiment, we are not going to be playing with GPUs right now because we just want to make sure that we can use available resources. So we are going to be using the old CPUs. Raswell, nothing special to it. And yes, this is taking a bit of time. Let me. Okay, good. So back to the slideshow. Okay, so that was what we saw here. Now that we know about what kind of resource we have available, we should reserve them because remember this is a shared resource, so you have to reserve them. This is the login screen I wanted to show originally. The easiest way to log in, just go to Chameleon Cloud, that main website, as we saw here, and you just hit login and off you go. We are going to be using for this experiment, the TAC machines, the TAC side of the cluster. So you could use this link below, but I will show you how to access both. And remember, if you don't have a Chameleon account, this is a good time to get it. I'm going to log out of here, and we're going to log back in. So this is going to be annoying, which is okay. So if you remember, that's the same screen. I'm going to log in, and we're going to go to the most generic way. Because now, if you know chameleoncloud.org, you can get to everything else. This is my login screen. Your login screen might look very similar to this. Have some outage stuff saying like when they're going to be doing work, projects, experiments. Now, what you want to do is once you log in here, you're going to go and click on here, the CHI attack. As soon as you do that, you're going to log in here. It's giving me some error messages. I'm not going to worry about it. This is the generic screen you're going to use. That's where you're going to create your test environment. So overview, just saying what's going on. Instance. Okay, unable to retrieve instance. That sounds interesting. And because it's not listing an instance I just created. Let's see if it shows it. No, it's still giving that. I hope someone on our Slack might know the answer. And now it's getting more exciting. Okay. Well, we're experiencing some technical difficulties. Let's see if I can sign out and go log in and see if it makes a difference. Do the standard Windows thing. And okay, now it seems to be behaving better. And the overview is showing that I have another instance here. That is an instance I created before this class, just in case something, as you saw, something goes wrong, we have a plan B. Now, first thing we are going to be doing, we are going to create a reservation. And as you see, I have one reservation already done. Some other people had some reservations in different states. And that shows, that was the screen login. And that thing I marked in a red circle is kind of important, and I'm going to show you why. Let's say, you remember that when we saw, let's go back to the Chameleon page, when you were playing with chameleoncloud.org. Okay. When we had here, we're doing hardware discovery, and let's say you decide, for instance, oh, I really want to build a network and I want to use some GPUs and things like that. Remember, this is shared, so you have to find out when those will be available. To find out, you're going to click here on host calendar. And then you can see which nodes are, here shows the list that, someone reserved this node until October 12, a bit past that sometime. And then someone else is using it. So let's say we want to reserve these guys here. As you can see, they're kind of popular. But you're going to see this machine here. The reservation ends on October 10th. So if you wanted to use this one, you would want to reserve it starting sometime here. So, but we're not going to be doing this right now because I said we're going to just be using the plain old Skylake or Haswell. So we should be good to go. So let's create an instance. I'm going to call it after my username, so it's easy to find it. I'm going to call webinar instance. Kind of simple name. You can configure this saying like when you want start date, end date, and all that stuff. Right now, we don't, I'm going to just want it to run immediately. So I'm not going to do that. But if you're going to do GPUs, yes, you want to do this. By default is the compute Haswell, which, as I said, you have a good chance of grabbing it. So let's do it. And then we wait a bit. And then we wait some more. Okay. So as you see, the status of the one I just created is pending. And that's going to be like that for a bit. So if you haven't created your account right now, it's a good time to do it. If you have any questions, you made up to here, let's take I'm going to wait a bit while you ask your questions. And if someone wants to have a question, we want to answer on that. We're good, okay. So Now, if you want, as I said, I have the backup list. I can cheat, and we can just continue as if it went from pending to active. I'll let anybody, any of you, if you want us to do that, let me know. You can use on the bottom of your screen, you should have an option to ask questions, and we'll be here answering them. So, well, in the meantime, let's go see all the interesting stuff here. Oh, it died on me. You see that? Okay, delete this, please. Let's start again. And then that's actually a good opportunity to show there is a trick you can do. Okay. I don't want to type that much again. The smart thing to do, you see here, you have minimum number of hosts, maximum number of hosts. Add one. At least one more than you actually need, because sometimes it hits a physical host that's taking too much time or is unhappy for whatever reason. By having an extra one here, you have a plan B. So that was a good opportunity to see a little trick here. So why are these guys doing that? Let's go see something more interesting. If you hit here documentation, yes, I'm going to hit it here. I'm going to still open a new tab because I want to keep this guy here. This documentation we're pretty much doing the quick version of the getting started, which means that, if you don't have your account and you're just sitting, just paying attention, or you want to revisit this later, go to the Get Start page and then follow the instructions here. As you see, it sounds familiar. Overview is a node picture, but so create the list. They're using here my first list. I like to use the list named after me in case there's more than one person, so you can find out and try to describe. So you see, very similar to what we're doing here. So meanwhile, let's see how we're doing. Okay, mine one's still pending here. Let's see if this one, if we got lucky. See, now it's active. We have progress. Now that you create the list, the next thing we're going to do here, we talked about that, we need key pairs. Key pairs, we're using them because we're going to SSH into, we're going to create, the list is a bag where you're going to put our lab inside. So you can have a bunch of machines, which are called instances. These guys here. And networks and everything else you want to do together, we put inside an instance. Now, to access a machine on our list, we need to have a key pair. We're going to do SSH key pair authentication. And let's show you how to create it. I already have one here, but I'm going to create one for the lab here. So let's go lab key, like lab key. That's close enough. When I create it, it's going to have this file here called labkey.pm. The idea is here on the network, on the website where you see here lab key, that's a public key. what we're downloading is the private key. I'm going to download it. I can put it here on my root. And there it is. You know, the other option, you can import or create a key. And you do it the same way. You hit here, import here, create a name, and then you paste here or browse and find it, a public key that you want to use. So we're good there. So let's see, next step. We want to find an appliance. Appliance can be seen as the image we are going to build our instance around. And that's why I'm leaving all those tabs on here. You see here, the second tab here is appliances. And you're going to go here. You see there's these icons here and those icons there. They have, this one means that this is a image that was created by the Chameleon people, and they are supporting it, they are patching, they are keeping it current. This one doesn't have anything, so it means someone created and made it available. And pretty much means buyer beware, no guarantees. The ones that have this icon here means that, as you just highlighted, it's a complex appliance, which could mean that there's more than one instance and maybe some other stuff, like, you know, this guy says stitchable networks, so chances are it's going to be creating some networks at the same time. We are going to be using this guy here, CentOS 7, with the default Chameleon appliance. So I can just click here, and I'm going to tell you to launch at Kai at TAC, because remember, it's still on the Texas thingy. And here it is, and it's going to say, okay, using this format. That's how big the image is. And you can see when it was created, updated, was not that old. So now I'm going to launch the instance. When I hit here, I need an instance name. So I'm going to call it once again after me. Since an instance is another name for a server, I'm going to call it this server. The reservation is the reservation we created, the lease. And in this case, we're going to use the webinar one. Now, source, we already selected, because remember, when we went to the appliance, what we're doing, we're looking for this guy here, the image source. There's a lot of other image sources. You can see the history, how long they were upgraded. The reason to have that is that if you created a lab or test environment, a test lab using a specific version of, say, CentOS, you can go back to it and reproduce it, as I mentioned, you know, earlier in this presentation. Flavor, we just have one here, bare metal, physical machine. Next, network. We're going to be using the shared net. And now, I almost forgot to click the key pair. Remember, we created this key pair here, lab key. So we're going to use it. And now we can launch this. And then once you launch, you see instance one launched. Now we go back here to instance. We wait a bit. And currently it's on build status. This takes a lot because this is a physical machine. We're talking maybe 8 minutes, 10 minutes. So, you know, this also not a good time to, if you need help, if you have questions, or you just created your account and need help making it work. So I'm going to take a break now and answer some questions. And go from there. I'm seeing okay. No questions. Okay, well, this is going to take a bit. Other thing we have to do while we're waiting, you see my plan B here. It's one thing we have to do is attach an interface, because let's show you a bit of network topology. Okay, we're creating those two machines here on the orange network here, shared net. And you see that's the IP range, that's a private IP range. Now, if you want to access it from your laptop or whatever, you need to make it so you can reach it from the public network, which means the outside. To do so, we're going to use floating IPs. And since we have two instances, we can do it on my plan B1, and then we can do on the one you're going to use for this lab. So we're going to go, actually I prefer to do, yep. Port secures, update metadata, so we're good here. More actions. Okay, we can do it from the network, floating IPs. Ooh. That is interesting. We need to. Okay. I'm going to create another one called Plan B. So what I'm doing here, I'm getting, you see those two IPs, public IPs, and I grabbed two, so I make them available so I can use on the webinar. Right now, I can associate that to either of the machines, either from here or from the instance tab here. Yeah, just guys still doing its thing. Thought I could do it from here. Never mind, we can do it from here. Here, I'm going to associate plan B to my plan B machine. And then after associate it, we're going to go back to network topology. Okay, hasn't updated yet, but shortly you're going to see a little line coming from here to indicate you have network connection. I'm getting, I guess I'm going a bit too fast. Okay, you see now it's reported I have this floating IP associated with my plan B. So while this guy's on spawning, I'm going to associate the other floating IP to the other machine, to the one we're creating for this webinar. that to be this guy. Okay. Let's see if the network topology map is updated. No, it's not showing the table. Let's go back to the instance. Okay. I'm going to copy this IP, and then I'm going to go to my terminal window, which is probably this one. And let's see if I can copy this to, let's make it like that. You'll see I can ping the Plan B machine, which is 129.114.108.246. Once I can ping it, now let's see if I can connect to port 22, which is SSH. You see I can connect SSH 2.0 and whatever. So now let's see if how is the other machine doing? So that's 129.109.1. Let's first ping it. What is showing here is that machine hasn't finished being created. Remember, as I said, it takes a while. Oh, now it's running. And took only 7 minutes. But ping is not ready yet. Okay. I'm not going to wait on this guy. Let's assume it works. So that's why you have Plan B. Okay. We have to. I probably prefer to do. Okay. Okay, so we've seen here, there is that file there called labkey.pem. And that's the file that came with our public key. I'll cut this and print out the one here, just in case. Okay. White is so small. But let's see if I can. Can you see now? Okay. Let me resize the vertical height so I can actually see it. Okay. Okay, so where were we? We're pinging the other guy here. Okay, well, I spent enough time to give enough time for this guy to log in. So now let's see if it's SSH is up, SSH is up. So right now we're connected to this guy here. We are going to connect to this server here. It's the one I created for this lab. So one thing you're going to see here, you'll see how this machine is called cc.centos. One CC is for the Chameleon cloud, but also let's go to SSH into it to make sure something else here. -I, lab key, and then let's see if we can connect as root. Okay. See, it didn't like the key because the key, the permissions for the key are too open. So we're going to have to do 0600 lab key there. That should make it more secure. Okay, you see also the other thing, it doesn't like me to log in as root. It wants to use CC as the username, which is okay, here we are. Looks like a machine, you see, has 233 gigs of RAM. This space here is a place you can, if you need something that has to survive between labs, you can copy it here. And then once you come back, it's going to be available there waiting for you. Now, let's see what else. We went here to floating IP, we SSH. You see, once you CC. Now let's do some experimenting. We're going to, one thing we're going to do for this experiment, we're going to be talking to OpenStack directly. And that requires us to download a package that you can, that allows you to use the OpenStack CLI. So we get back here, and if you see here, there's those two files here. You can just grab either one and save file. And I'm going to just put it on my root. And let's see if it's, oh, that's the one I'm on the server. And here is, that's the file I just downloaded. So if I do this, now I need to enter my OpenStack password. There. So actually, this allows, if you want, if you do this, that would allow you to send, use your laptop to access the OpenStack from and configure other things from the command line from your laptop. Over here, we're going to be doing, I'm going to be doing something slightly different. And what I'm going to do is, since we created this perfect good machine, we're going to copy it to the machine that we just created, and you're going to run it from there. I'm going to show you why. But you see, you can do it both ways. Sometimes it's good to have it on your laptop so you can create your clusters from the command line from your laptop. But in this case, we're going to do it straight, for this lab, we're going to do it from the instance we just created. So, okay, there you are. Going back in here. And we do the same thing we did before, CH. And then same password. Okay, we're happy. So you see, I used SCP to copy. You could just have, it's a small script. You could just cut and paste. Now we need to find the instance. There are many ways to do that. You can use the instance, you can get the instance UID by clicking here. And you have this ID here. Or you can run this command, enter the, get back in here. You can run this command here, that's a mouthful. Or since we're at, remember that we just installed OpenStack. How about we use it a bit? So we can do OpenStack server show minus format value minus C ID. Remember the ID, and what's the name of our little machine? If you remember, it's Tavares server. I can type that or not. And there it is, which if you look, I'm going to put it kind of like here, is the same thing as that ID here, see? Same ID. But if you do this way, you can have a script that needs to such information and do its thing from there. Now, we are going to run the back here. Now that you have ID, we can do little things like OpenStack, metric, with source show. That's going to show you a lot of available resources we have. Those are source of information we can use. You see a network information, memory, and load, that to be CPU. And you see on there, if you want to get the value for the different resource, we are going to pick, say, metric, show the metric name. I'm going to use the load one. Let's see if it works. And mine resource. That. Let's see what we get. Okay. That. That's the resource. Let's see if we go up a bit and show you what's going on here. Jesus load. Now, if you want to know about what this value represents, there's this, you can go on Wikipedia and search for load computing, and it's going to describe how the calculation for those load values they are. And you can see that, for instance, saying like, if the last minute was 1.73, that means that you have one process running, and 0.73 of a process has to wait for its turn on the CPU. So I won't go over this, but so you can go to this link and take a look and see how this works. So let's do some, just the granularity, that means it's the sampling time in seconds. It's, here it says 1 second, it's more like 10 seconds, but that's okay. Okay, now moving on. So we're going to install the stress program. And now we are going to run it. So I'm going to run for 60 seconds. Okay. If you remember this output here, if you notice, it starts to increase here. Let's see if you get more. It takes a bit of time for this to react. This is not real time. While just waiting, what we want to see, we should see this number increasing, and eventually after the 60 seconds is going to decrease. You see it finished the run, but you saw that only now it started populating it. You see it went from 0.13 to 3047, 104. And then now might stay there for a bit and eventually it's going to start decreasing. So remember this very important message. After you finish the experiment, clean up after yourself. So let's see if there's any more. Okay, it's going to stay like that for a while. I'm going to clean after myself because, you know, this guy is taking too long and want to give a bit of time if people have questions. You see it went 104, 1031, now it's coming down again, slowly but surely. So I think you got the point. So I'm going to clean my resources and back to the web browser. Let's go back to the instance. So I can just click here and say delete instance or select from here too. I can delete it there too, see? Scary in scary red. Do you want to delete that? Yes. So that means I'm releasing this server back so somebody else can use. Technically, I can leave my let my reservation run until it expires, or I can quit it now. You see that this reservation would expire tomorrow at 7:20 Universal. The other one was a bit earlier, but this one, I'm going to kill it. You see, I could have just clicked here and done the same thing I did before, but I decided to be different. And after that is done, this one, I might leave it alone a bit. I'm going to kill it later. You can also release any floating IPs you have used. And you see this one's available, so I can just release it so somebody else can use it. And that is pretty much it. That was a quick lab. And some resource you have available. If you have any questions, email us at help@chameleoncloud.org. If you go through even after this presentation, please go to here, look, get started, do it again on your own. and see if you're comfortable. And then before you're doing something more exciting, there's some documentation here, webinars, there's a blog. And I would say that's pretty much it. We have 5 minutes, I think. So any questions or anything?
Well, I think there were a couple of questions about if the slides would be available or not. Just so you know, I will send out the slides and the recording of this afterwards, so you guys will have those.
I see people have been using the webinar chat instead of the question thing.
All right, well, if there are no other questions, thank you, Mauricio, for presenting this talk today. We appreciate your time and that of our attendees. Please make sure to join us in 5 weeks for our next webinar. Bring us your troubles and we'll shoot them. And that is on November 14th. Thank you all and have a wonderful rest of the day.